Welcome to the channel and to this week debrief. We're going to be focusing on air-to-air interception, and the plan is to explain to you why do we intercept with fighter aircraft, what is the mindset of the crew, of the pilots as we do those interception. Is there any hot area in the world right now? And there are several, and we'll look just a little bit at geopolitics. I'll give you a couple examples and I'll finish with the do and don'ts of a good air-to-air interception, and I'll show you a little bit using a software called the DCS World how to perform an interception. So
check, radar, secure, gun blast emitter, clear, right intake, check, left intake, check, protection seat is safe, arm handle, copy, I shall say, boom, com, IFF, up and up, let's go, move it, TDI, MDCD, and HCD, go flight, NCS, ECS, AWP, all green across the board, okay for start, copy, okay for start.
Let's get into the video. So why would you want to intercept? You have to understand the laws that exist between different countries. So each country has its terrain, has its ground, has its national soil. And according to Montego Bay Convention from December 1982, it extends up to 12 miles in the ocean. So if there is any other territory, your soil is yours, plus 12 miles in the ocean. It goes up to 200 miles for what we call the exclusive economic area, and for the ground level of the ocean you can have up to 350 miles. So some countries like the Turkish didn't sign that treaty, and there are some hot areas, but that's just a regular rule in the world. It's going to help you understand how close an enemy or a foreign aircraft is allowed to come to your airspace, to your soil, and the answer is 12 miles. What you have to understand for those 12 miles is the size of the countries. Let's have a very simple example. The United States of America. Between the east and the west of the US, you can have more than 4,000 kilometers. Just look at that crazy map. So to keep it very simple, I'm going to be using 2,200 nautical miles. Okay, so it's about 4.2 thousand kilometers. Now imagine, in terms of percentage, the size of the ocean that belongs to you if your country is that wide. And those 12 miles, they represent 0.0005%. Okay, so that means you don't have much of the ocean. Where I'm getting is, imagine your house is 10 meter wide. Okay, your house is 10 meter wide, and your garden, as we say, that's belong to you. If your house is 10 meter wide, your garden is going to be 5 centimeters. So if somebody parks his car at 5.1 centimeters, it is legal. But do you want that to happen? Maybe not. Therefore, you might send interceptors. So if you see enemy or foreign military aircraft coming at 6 centimeters from your house, you might want to have a look at those guys. Look, hey, what are you guys doing? And you're going to be sending some of your troops as well to match, to see what they do. And that's why you sort of can classify it into several areas. You want to send interceptors to classify a radar contact that you had. You have no clue what it is. You're going to send an aircraft to intercept, and to be able to come back with a classification. Hey, it is a B-52, it is a Sukhoi 27, it is an airliner. You want to also send it for surveillance. You know what's coming, and you want to monitor that aircraft. So you're going to have an aircraft take off and do a surveillance mission. Maybe you want to escort that aircraft. Maybe there are terrorists on board, just like the Ryanair Boeing 737 that got intercepted by British Royal Air Force Typhoons. So you want to escort to either protect your soul from that aircraft. Maybe you want to assist an aircraft, an airliner, a small aircraft, a general aviation aircraft has an emergency, has a pan, has radio issue, stuff like that. You're going to assist. If you're a general aviation pilot, you find yourself above the layer of clouds, you're trapped above, you can't go through it because you're not qualified to fly instruments. We might send you a fighter aircraft to assist you and guide you toward an area where we know the weather is better, for example. So classification, surveillance, escort, assistance, destruction. maybe it's a bad guy, you know for sure you want to shoot him down, terrorist attack, stuff like that, enemy aircraft, you want to shoot it down. That's another reason why you would have your aircraft, fighter aircraft, scramble, as we say, to intercept. And last but not least would be a contest where you want to do a show of capacity, but in the end it is dissuasion. So you want to be able to prove to another countries that you are able to detect and intercept. So that's basically all the reason I could think of. And keep in mind, I did it as in my previous job. Now, how is it going to go? So how are you going to launch the intercept? So first, your troops are going to be able to detect a coming aircraft. So through radar, you're going to be, hey, there's an aircraft coming. So do we know what that is? So your command center is going to assess the radar. Do we know what it is? Do we have a flight plan? Do we know for sure? Do we have intel? Yes, no, no. Okay. So depending on the situations, they're going to decide or not to scramble, as we said, the QRAs, the quick reaction assets. And we're going to launch the emergency aircraft. They're going to take off and they're going to be able to intercept. In most countries, you always have fighter pilots ready to take off under very short notice. We're talking a couple minutes, and from several bases in the country, because countries are pretty big. Imagine the US, imagine France. Yeah, you have to have several bases ready to have aircraft take off. And then the aircraft is going to perform the interception. It's going to be on radio communication with the command center, and it's going to be able to say, hey, this is what I see. I see that type of aircraft, that number, those markings, those munitions or fuel tanks below the wings. It's going to be able to debrief live what is happening, and then it's going to be tasked maybe, hey, we want you to escort him, we want you to assist him, we want you to shoot him down, unlikely. And then as he come back, he's going to do a debrief. He has pictures, and he's going to send the pictures to the headquarters, and the intelligence officers are going to be able to work on it. That's basically the flow of why you would like to intercept and how it's going to go. I hope you enjoyed that part, and we're going to get right into the brain of a fighter pilot, his mindset during this interception. So you're just being tasked with an interception. So what you want to do is get the job done. Your goal is to get the job done, and you're going to initially take off not knowing exactly what your mission is. And once you're airborne, with the radio, headquarters are going to tell you, you are to intercept a contact, bearing this, altitude this, speed this. Your mission is VID, visual identification, or want you to escort that aircraft, okay, or want you to report what is going on, because we've lost radio communication with that Boeing 737, for example. So at that point, your goal is to get the job done. If you're intercepting another military aircraft and maybe a country where there is some tension, then there is a small dichotomy. You don't want to be the first dead of a new war, yet you don't want to start a new war. Meaning, you know you're going toward another military aircraft. You know there is some tension between the two countries. Your rules of engagement, your mindset isn't to start a war. You don't want to fight the guy because you're not at war, yet you don't want to be shot, or you don't want to be the first casualty of the new war. So it's all about getting the job done, not getting yourself shot, and not messing up and starting a chain reaction that could be extremely dangerous for both your country and everyone else in the air. So that's sort of the mindset. And it's my personal point of view again. Rules of engagement are going to be given to you by your chain of command. You might have what we call cockpit delegation, meaning they're going to tell you, hey, you're allowed to do this, you're allowed to do this, you're allowed to do this. If you have to do that or take that decision, like shooting him down, you're going to need to have the approval from the headquarters. And some stuff, you might have what we call cockpit delegation. Let's say you're intercepting an aircraft, the aircraft breaks, shoot at you. It's what we call self-defense. Just like if in the street somebody tries to stab you, if you have a knife, French law, okay, you're supposed to be allowed to attack back with a knife. Now, if somebody attacks you with a knife and you pull out a gun and shoot him, that's not legal, French law. If you have more info, let me know in the comments, but that's my understanding of the regulation and law. Then you might be cuffed with using your weapon system as unsafe, or simulated. So usually you simulate it to be able to use your system, but you won't be able to shoot. If you're unsafe, you sometimes don't have as much information with your weapon systems. If you go hot, then if you press the triggers, the missile is going to go. And to make sure there is no issue as we intercept, we usually don't go master arm, as we say, to prevent ourselves from having a fast finger, and we say, and starting a combat. Also, you might be cuffed, as we say, with the use of your radar. It's not true for all aircraft. Every aircraft is different. But some radars have a scan mode, a regular scan mode, and if you want to shoot at somebody, then the radar wavelength and style is going to change. And instead of doing stuff like that with the antenna, it's going to do like ta-ta, super focused, and send a lot of microwaves toward the target to be able to compute the distance and be able to shoot it down. And when you're the target, you can tell with all your systems if the enemy aircraft is scanning like this or if it's targeting you extremely precisely. And sometimes when you do an intercept, you might be cuffed not to only use your radar in that mode and not in that mode, because it could be perceived as what we call a hostile intent or a hostile act, something very aggressive. And last and not least will be all the what's called ECM, electronic countermeasures. We all have jammers on our aircraft nowadays. If you use your jammers, there are several levels of jamming. I won't get too much into details about that, but just peacetime training jamming, or you have war jamming, and you're usually not allowed to use war jamming because it could damage the other aircraft, but also it's going to give away information about your jamming capabilities. And maybe the other country sends some aircraft to try to force you into using your jammers so that you give away the way your jammer works. The other guy, is recording everything, and now he's coming back. He's getting a drink offered by the intelligence officers, and now the engineers, they know exactly how your jammers work, and they're going to be able to create a new generation of system or an upgrade that won't be affected by the jammers you're using.
Большое спасибо. The meaning is thank you very much.
So a lot of hidden stuff, a lot of stuff you want to take into account, and the biggest one is get the job done without effing up anything. And that's really the mindset. You want to be there, you want to be as fast as possible on the target, you want to do everything as you should, yet you know that you're not in wartime and that you are in a position where things could go wrong, and you have to remain calm and professional. Professionalism is key when you intercept someone. It is vital to mitigate the risk both for the intercepted and the interceptee. That's it for that. Now, we're going to step back a little bit, and you guys are maybe going to have a big revelation here. We're going to be talking about some of the hot areas in the world, and we're going to start by very cold places. But first, I got a question for you. Let me know in the comments, what is, in your opinion, the shortest distance between American soil and Russian soil? Let me know in the comments. Distance between American soil and Russian soil, closest distance. Let me know in the comment section, and I'll give you the answer later. But first, I want you to realize that Russia is a huge country. It's the biggest country in the world, 17.1 million square kilometers. The US, 9.83. Then you have Brazil, 8.5, and Europe, 10.18. That means that if you add the size of the US and the size of the European Union, you have slightly more than the size of Russia. It's about 20 against 17 for Russia. Okay, so that's being said. Okay, now let's look at the population. Okay, population in Russia is about 145 million. I'll say it again and I'll write it down. 145 million people in Russia. That's it. 126 million in Japan, 210 in Brazil, and if you look at France and Germany alone, it's 153. There are more French and German than Russian people on the planet. We're talking 153 for the French and German. We're talking less than 150 for the Russian. I don't know if you had that in mind, but it is very important to understand the size of Russia, actually. So Russia is a big country, yet very unpopulated country. Again, more German and French than Russians. And if you add up Europe and the US, we're talking 1,069 million. So more than 1 billion inhabitants compared to Russia, that is, as we said, 150 million. So it is just insane. Russia is 7.4 times smaller in terms of people than Europe and the US. Okay, and last stuff I want to look at is the GDP, you know, the gross income of the countries. If you look at the GDPs of the US and Europe, it is 9 times the GDP of Russia. Okay, so in terms of GDP, US and Europe, 9 times more than Russia, yet we talk a lot about Russia, a lot about Russian military. I just wanted you to step back a little bit and realize actually how small from a GDP and population point of view it is, and how impressive, and I'm apolitic. I'm not pro-Russian, I'm not anti-Russian, I'm just stating facts and numbers. And it took me some time to come up with all the numbers. Just, it is impressive to see that such a small country, if you look at it from that way, it's the GDP of Germany with the population of France and Germany that is sort of standing against Europe and the US from a media point of view and from all those military interception point of view. So I just thought it was worth sharing. It's important always to step back as much as we can, not to get tunneled into some sort of way of thinking. Okay, so now that we talked about it, of course, you know, we're going to be talking about tense area between the West, as we say, and Russia. And there are several areas. We have the Baltic area with the Baltic Air Policy, and the Sukhoi 27 just flew over some Northern Europe islands a couple days ago, made the news. We have tense areas in Alaska as well. Then we have with the Chinese, all the meridional sea issues, but I won't get into it because it's so complex. It'll take an entire video by its own. And then we have the Med right now, and I've been posting 2 videos about it. Turkish against Greeks against Turkish, and there is a lot of tension going on. I made specific videos about it. But today I'm going to be digging a little bit more into the Baltic air policing. So you have NATO, a NATO QRA, protecting Estonia, Lithuania, and Latvia. It's been starting in 2004, and a lot of countries, different countries from NATO have been getting there, and they're sort of protecting the north of Europe. And every single time Russian military aircraft approach, they scramble and they intercept. So it is a key area right now, a lot of interception going on. You can also have lots of interception in the north of Europe with bombers doing some training flights. We even have Russian bombers flying across Europe, getting into the Med for Syria, and or sometimes even coming back. So very long flights. They're off the coast. They're more than 12 miles. They're in international water. It is legal for them to do that, and it is legal for NATO to intercept them as well, while staying professional. And you have Alaska. And Alaska is key. Why? Because there are 2.5 miles, I'll say it again, 2.5 miles in Alaska between Alaska and Russia. That's it. 2.5 miles. Alaska was bought from Russia a long time ago, and it's only 4 kilometers. Yet there is more than 21 hours of jet lag between those two it's 2 small islands in the Strait of Bering, and there are 21 hours of jet lag between those 2 islands because one side is day 1 and the other one is day 0. So if you cross those, and you can actually swim it. Some guys did it. If you swim across it, you'll just change 21 hours. Pretty insane stuff. Otherwise, the Strait of Bering is about 60 miles-ish, 85 kilometers. Okay, so those are tensed area, and you have F-22 stationed in Elmendorf. You have F-22s and KC-135, and they intercept Tu-142 on a regular basis and make the news at least every week, those interceptions. But again, more than 12 miles. Everything is legal on both sides, and it's practice. That's it. From the Baltic point of view, again, sometimes there are those small navigation issues. We've heard about the Sukhoi 27. He was intercepting an aircraft, and flying close to that aircraft, he overflew an island that belonged to another country. So that's bad. That's very bad. Yet nobody got shut down, and maybe there will be complaints. I don't know for sure. That's for the tense areas. 3 to remember: Northern Europe, Alaska, and right now Mediterranean. And if you like all the stuff in the East, of course, all the stuff with China, but again, too complex. Let's have a look at a couple examples now. So what have we seen lately? We've seen this clip of B-52s being intercepted by Sukhoi 27. It is off the coast, more than 12 miles in international water. It is absolutely legal for the B-52 to fly there. It is legal for the Sukhoi to intercept those aircraft, yet you shouldn't attack the safety of an interceptee. So braking in front of him with the afterburner on or not, but just braking so close to the other aircraft is not an act of war, but it is not professional and it is not a good way to conduct yourself. And we have had examples in the past with Sukhoi intercepting P-3 Orion, doing the same type of stuff and colliding with the aircraft. So there are several history of aircraft being intercepted by jets, by Russian jets, and having collision. Maybe you've seen the Hunt for the Red October?
Bear Foxtrot got too close to the group. One of the F-14s tried to crowd him off course and they bumped. He's got stabilator damage and he's losing hydraulic fluid. They're trying to get him back aboard now.
Busy morning. This business will get out of control. It'll get out of control and we'll be lucky to live through it.
So it might not be real, but yeah, some stuff happened like that in the past. You can look it up if you want. P-3, Sukhoi 27. And from time to time it does happen, so you really want to be extremely careful. You have to keep in mind that when you intercept a big aircraft like that, well, they're at risk. There are a lot of crew, and if you damage your wing, stuff like that, you might be able to eject with your fighter aircraft, but then they will suffer casualties almost for sure, even though, hey, we've seen an E-2D last week. Everybody bailed out from the E-2, which is a first in the history of the Hawkeyes. They had an issue, I don't know which one, and they decided to parachute themselves, and it worked just fine. So you can exit an aircraft like that. Big difference between those big military aircraft and an airliner is usually, and I say usually because it's not the case in every single aircraft, usually they have parachutes so they could jump if they have catastrophic damage to the aircraft, yet it is not easy to exit the aircraft. Okay, so more examples. Ryanair 737 aircraft coming in with presumably terrorists on board, got intercepted by the Royal Air Force. Point to note on that one is, was the 737 intercepted before? I don't know, by other countries, so you just cross other countries and then you arrived and then the Brits decided they wanted to intercept them. Okay, I mean that's a reason why you want to do it. Other reasons will be assistance. You have a small aircraft, it happened in France with a Alpha Jet saving a general aviation aircraft, happens very often, so that's extremely good as well. Or you could have pilots having technical issues and being intercepted as well. Again, look for it in the news, you'll see them from time to time. Now, I want to focus on examples that didn't end up just like that. Turkish F-16, again Russian Sukhoi 24M, 2015. The Sukhoi came during 17 seconds over Turkish national soil. Decision was made by the Turkish to shoot the Sukhoi down. The Sukhoi was shot down, resulting in the loss of the aircraft. So you can decide if somebody comes into your country, usually after several calls on the frequency, and the Turkish made several warning calls, you would usually call the other aircraft on guard frequency 2430, which is the military safety emergency frequency. A civilian one is 121.5 multiplied by 2 and you get 2430, and usually every radio receiver listens to guard, so if somebody talks on guard you're going to be able to hear him. So you're going to make warning shots, warning calls on guard, doesn't answer, he's over my country, I shoot him down. So that's an example. Other examples are over Pakistan and India. Maybe you've heard about dogfights over there with MiG-21 chasing F-16 and presumably shooting down F-16 before getting shot down. That's another example. So you see those type of stuff do happen. And you also had a Greek, more than 25 years ago, that shut down a Turkish aircraft. Last but not least, you have F-18 from the US Navy intercepting Syrian aircraft and shooting them down. Why? Because the Syrian aircraft was delivering weapons, was a bombing position that were presumably friendly positions from an American point of view. So it wasn't American personnel on the ground, but it was troops Allied troops, as we say, troops from the areas that was allied to the US. So using what we call extended self-defense, the F-18 shut down the Syrian aircraft. On that note, he had to shoot 2 missiles. First one was a heat-seeking missile, a Fox 2 Sidewinder, and got trashed. He didn't reach the target. So the F-18 decided to switch to long-range and medium-range Fox 3 electromagnetic missile with a small radar in its head, and then he decided to shoot at Fox 3 that found the target and destroyed the target. So don't think it's just in movies. Those past 5 to 10 years have been insane from an air-to-air interception and combat point of view, yet, as you've realized, they do not start war. So that's something you have in your mind as your fighter pilot. You know that, hey, you're risking your lives. There are stuff that can happen, yet it's not necessarily going to escalate to full-out war. But hey, you don't want to shoot somebody down when you shouldn't, and you don't want to be shot down as well. Okay, so that's why we're going to go directly into the do and don'ts. So what do you do and what do you don't do when you're getting intercepted? If you're flying an aircraft, if you're a general aviation pilot, if you fly DCS, if you enjoy all that stuff, if you're getting intercepted, be gentle, okay? An aircraft is going to come at you. It's like when the cop stops you, okay? Maybe you've done nothing wrong, yet if the cop comes close to you and you start putting your hand and trying to move your gun, stuff like that, they're going to get nervous. Enough on the topic. But keep in mind, they have self-defense. If you are extremely aggressive, they might feel threatened. So you want to stay as smooth as possible. If an aircraft comes close to you and you brake at 6G, he's going to feel he's being engaged. He's going to feel like he's being attacked. If you do a 2G 60-degree angle of bank turn, that is sort of the limit, then you're going to be fine. If you brake toward him, it's going to be extremely more aggressive. He's not going to like it. So you want to keep in mind that you don't want to be perceived as doing hostile intent or hostile act, and everything leaving your aircraft is going to be seen as either one of them. So if you drop flares, if you drop chaff, if you start using your ACM in war mode, so your countermeasure, your jammers, if you start looking with your radar, it might be seen as an hostile act from the other aircraft, and he might decide to shoot you. As you're being intercepted, you have responsibilities. To keep it professional, you want to be easy to follow, and you don't want to try to trick him, or you don't want to brake toward him, or you don't want to reduce very aggressively your speed. You don't want to do anything dangerous. When you're the interceptor, it is sort of the same. You don't want to scare them off. If you arrive and you start braking in front of them, stuff like that, they're going to be scared and it's going to be dangerous. So you don't want to flare, you don't want to do stuff like that. Usually what you're going to do, if you want them to follow you, you're going to get close to them and you're going to rock your wings. And it's legal, it's open source. If an aircraft comes close to you and rock your his wings, it means I want you to follow me. And you should answer by rocking your wings as well, meaning I agree to follow you. In the case of the BC-52 and the Sukhoi came, rocked his wing, B-52 said,
you know, the finger.
Thank you, Goose. And then the Sukhoi came in front and left. So when you want to leave, you usually leave like this and you have to brake. To show I'm not following you guys anymore, you have to make a brake, but you don't make a brake toward the cockpit of the other guys. You either brake by above, by below, or to the side. It is usually cool to go below because you get a perfect view of the other aircraft, and you want to have proper separation, about 1,000 feet usually is good, just to keep it safe for everyone. Keep in mind, that's on a side note, that we do have special procedures with the transponders, with the IFF. Imagine you're intercepting an airliner, and as a military aircraft, you have your IFF on, your transponder on. Guess what? The airliner is going to get what you call a TCAS alert. It's an automatic system that is going to detect that the transponder is closing in, and it's going to start giving orders to the pilot of the airline to prevent a collision. So if you're coming close to him, it's going to get like, oh, pull up, turn left, pull up, all type of crazy stuff. I talk about it in my video on the F-15 interception of the Airbus in Iran. So if you want to look it up, I'll put it in the notes section. I'll explain everything about TCAS. But that's it. What did we talk about? We talked about why do you want to intercept? Remember, if your house is 10 meters wide, you have only 5 centimeters of the garden. That's it. If an enemy aircraft is at 6, it is legal for him. Then you want to do classification, surveillance, escort, assistance, destruction, or show off or dissuasion. As your mindset, you want to get the job done. You don't want to start a war, yet you don't want to be killed. So you're going to try to be as professional as possible. Tense areas, keep in mind, GDP of Russia is 9 times less than the US and Europe. Their population is 7.4 times less. So it is actually, from a paper and numbers point of view, a small country. Nothing against the Russians. But several tense areas, one in the Baltic, Northern Europe, one in Alaska, between the F-22s and all the Russian aircraft. Keep in mind there is only 2.5 miles between Russia and the US. If you didn't know that, let me know in the comment section. My research haven't been in vain. And a couple examples, 737 Ryanair, loss of communication, terrorist, B-52, the Sukhoi 27, not very professional, that's not how you want to do. Collisions that happened before in the past, and the do's and don'ts. Keep it cool, don't touch anything, just do what you're supposed to do. As long as you're above international water, you are doing everything fine from your point. Just don't try to build tension for nothing. That's it for the air-to-air interception. If you want to stick for the rest of the video, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be flying an air-to-air interception in DCS, and I'm going to be talking you through it. Ready? Action. Okay, so as we discussed, I'm going to be performing an air-to-air interception with this Mirage 2000, and you've seen NATO Tiger Meet, so that's NATO, and we do have Germany, Turkey, Greece. Where's Greece? Lots of different countries on it. Okay, so the setting is I'm taking off from Batumi, and there is a B-52 inbound. B-52 currently at 26 miles. So is he in international water? Yes! Just look at 12 miles. That will be 12 miles right here. Okay, so I have to intercept him before that. I'm being scrambled. Emergency takeoff just before the 25 miles mark line. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take off. I'm going to put my gear up. There we go. Here I am. I got my wingman with me. How cool is that? I've got 2 infrared Magic 2 missiles. Once I'm airborne, I'm switching with my tactical frequency because I'm so close. And because I'm so close head to head, I'm not going to go directly toward him. I'm going to offset myself a little bit to the side. You see, if I go head to head, I'm going to maybe do a quick interception, which why not? Maybe I could send my wingman do an interception like this. But what I really want to do is be able to come in close formation. So therefore, I need what we call turning room, lateral separation. So I'm offsetting myself to the north to be able to turn and come toward the B-52. What you want to do is look outside. Maybe he's in the contrail, so you don't even have to use your radar. I don't see any trail, so I'm going to have to use my systems, onboard systems, to be able to intercept. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be using my Itzykel missiles. So as I'm offsetting like this, now I'm climbing. It's at 26,000 feet. I'm climbing extremely fast, yet subsonic because I'm close to the shore. So if need be, I could, but normally peacetime, don't want to break the sound barrier too close to the shore. And now I'm starting my turn to do my interception. So I know he's at 26,000 feet-ish. I won't go as high. Why? Because I don't want to get too close to his altitude. I want to maintain some vertical separation with him. It is what we do to make sure we don't have any issues. So there you go. You see, I now have what we call a tally. I see him, and now I'm supersonic because I'm a bit further away from the shore. And look at this. There you go. So he's closing in. He's in over my national soil, and now I'm right on him. So you see how fast it can go. Of course, you need to have an aircraft that is stationed close to where the enemy is coming, but that could be the rhythm for really a last resort takeoff. Usually you have much more time. So now let's say I'm tasked to just report what type of aircraft it is. Chances are he hasn't seen me. Where there are 2 of us, look, we don't have any trails, he doesn't have radar. Chances are visually he hasn't seen me. So if I maintain his 6 o'clock like this, it's safe for him, safe for me, safe for everyone, and I could easily be in a shooting position and ready to report ready to take any more orders. So I'll put myself in a shooting position and just wait. That's a possibility. Otherwise, I'm going to be tasked to get closer to him, show myself, and show them they have been intercepted. Right now they're over my territory, so it makes a lot of difference. You shouldn't be there. But let's say we're still above international water. I'm going to be closing in on him. There you go. If he was indeed above national soil, I would come close to him like this, and then I would be slightly forward, and I will tell him, hey, like, you have been intercepted, you're above my country, and I want you to follow me. And he should rock his wing and follow me. That's perfect scenario. Okay. Now imagine he's not doing it. I can't really force him. Then I can shoot and let him know, hey, if you do not comply with the orders, I'm going to shoot you down. So I could, for example, use flares to let him know, hey, no, you have to follow my orders. Or I could use my gun. There you go. And let's say he doesn't want to follow me. He's above my national territory. Then I might do a warning shot, as we say. Okay, so what we saw between B-52 and Sukhoi 27 was sort of B-52, and you see how big it is. B-52 was flying like this, and then you had the Sukhoi coming to the side and saying, hey, follow me, no. So then he went full power, and he went like, yoo-hoo, hold on. Well, yeah, I missed it. So it's tough to fly from the outside when you're used to flying from the outside, and you just coming close. But what's so interesting is you see how fast you can get behind the other aircraft, because my Mirage 2000 is a delta wing, and it really doesn't like slow speed like the one we're flying at. And so that's pretty interesting. Anyway, so you see how quick it could escalate, and how difficult it is when you're like in the cockpit like this, flying close to another aircraft to pass on the information. As I said in my other video, imagine you're defending a street, and there is a truck coming in your street. How can you force that truck to stop? It is extremely difficult. And if you start doing more and more aggressive stuff, and chances are at some point it's going to get very dangerous. An interesting point is, if you look at my wingman was below, and my wingman was in perfect shooting position the entire time, which makes sense. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you've learned a couple stuff, and thank you. My book is still best-selling on Amazon, Debrief on Amazon. And if you have any thought on, hey, what type of stuff could we use in our business, corporate world, or events, have a look at my website. I'm a keynote speaker. I do workshops, all that type of good stuff, and I adapt aviation methods to any industry. Have a great week. Fly safe.